What if everything we know about the pyramids is a lie? I'm not talking about wild alien stuff. I mean something even crazier. What if the Egyptians didn't build them? And what if the truth has been hidden on purpose? You've seen the pyramids perfectly aligned. Massive blocks. No room for error. But here's the thing no one wants to talk about. The tools we know the Egyptians had, they couldn't have made that. Not with the precision we see, not with the scale, and definitely not in the time frame we're told. So what if we're looking at this all wrong? What if these pyramids aren't Egyptian at all? Okay, let's break it down. The Great Pyramid of Giza was supposedly built around 2500 BC, but there's zero writing inside. No carvings, no hieroglyphs. It's one of the most perfect structures on Earth. And it doesn't even say who made it. Even King Tut left his name on everything. So why would a pharaoh build the biggest monument ever and leave it blank? And here's another thing. The stone blocks used in the pyramid, some weigh over 80 tons. Modern cranes can barely move that stuff. You're telling me people with copper chisels and wooden sleds did that? Something's not adding up. Let's start with something weird. The Great Pyramid is aligned almost perfectly to true north, not magnetic north. True north, with a margin of error so small, even our most advanced buildings today struggle to match it. So now, think about this. They say the Egyptians used sticks and stars to line it up. You ever tried drawing a straight line with a stick in the sky? Good luck with that. And then there's the layout. The 3 pyramids of Giza. They match the stars of Orion's belt perfectly. Not kind of. Not close. Perfectly. This wasn't random, but here's where it gets even stranger. Inside the Great Pyramid, there are chambers and passageways cut through solid granite. Now, granite isn't soft stone. It's one of the hardest, and ancient Egypt, as far as we know, had no iron tools. Yet somehow, they carved precise tunnels, smooth surfaces, and laser straight lines into a material modern diamond saws struggle with. And they didn't just carve it, they did it at scale. Then there's the math. The pyramid encodes the speed of light, the number pi. The golden ratio somehow a civilization over 4,000 years ago designed. Something that reflects universal constants we've only understood in the last few centuries. That doesn't sound like trial and error to me, and the official story, they say Pharaoh Khufu built it. Okay, sure, but you know how we know that? Because of a single painted cartouche found in a chamber. Above the king's chamber, just one name, that's it. But here's the catch, that chamber was discovered by a British explorer in the 1800s. He wasn't even a trained archaeologist. He blew open parts of the pyramid with dynamite, and he conveniently found the pharaoh's name right. After people started questioning the official story, a lot of experts believe that cartouche was fake just to shut everyone up, because if the pyramids weren't built by Khufu, then who and when? Signs of something much older. Here's where things get insane. There are erosion patterns on the Sphinx that only come from heavy rainfall, but Egypt has been dry for thousands of years. So either the climate was radically different, or the Sphinx and possibly the pyramids there. Way older than we think. Some geologists say they could date back to 10,000 BC or earlier. That's before known Egyptian civilization even existed. So who was here before them? And if they were advanced enough to build this, where did they go? Energy, vibration, and something else. Some researchers say the pyramids weren't tombs at all. They might have been machines, built for energy, vibration, healing, or even communication. Why? Because deep inside, in the so-called king's chamber, they found resonance. Humans standing inside experience weird effects. Vibrations, strange sensations, even disorientation. Not to mention, there were no mummies inside the Great Pyramid. Not a single one. For a tomb, it's oddly missing a body. And then we have this, the shape of the pyramid itself. It's been proven to have effects on electromagnetic fields. Coincidence? Or were the pyramids tapping into something we've lost or ignored? But here's where it gets weirder. Let's say the pyramids weren't built by the Egyptians. Let's say the inscriptions, the tombs, the mummies, all of that was added later. A repurposing. Imagine this. A nomadic civilization stumbles upon a perfectly preserved geometric colossus, smooth as glass, no tool marks, no bodies inside, no story, just silence. What would they do? They'd do what any empire would, claim it, decorate it, bury their dead inside it, etch their own symbols on its outer walls. rewrite the origin story, and tie it to their gods. Now here's something people don't talk about. We found graffiti inside the Great Pyramid. Not sacred hieroglyphics. Actual graffiti, crude, rushed, written, in red ochre on beams deep inside chambers, that were supposedly sealed since construction. Egyptologists say this is proof of who built the pyramid, that it links the pyramid to Pharaoh Khufu. But think about that. Graffiti inside a sacred royal tomb? It's like carving your name into the walls of the Sistine Chapel and calling yourself the artist. Why would the greatest builders in history leave sloppy, crooked markings inside their masterpiece? Unless they didn't build it at all. Unless that graffiti was added centuries later by looters, explorers, or the very people trying to rewrite the history. And there's more. Let's talk about the precision. Great Pyramid is aligned with true north. Not magnetic north, which shifts, but true astronomical north. And it's accurate to within 3/60ths of a degree. Let that sink in. 3/60ths. That's more precise than modern buildings constructed using satellite-guided tools. And this was supposedly done using rope, wooden planks, and copper tools. How? Nobody can answer that without using the phrase, "we think." We think they might have used the stars. We think they had better tools than we found. We think they had knowledge that was somehow lost. Lost? How do you lose knowledge like that? You don't. Not unless that knowledge didn't belong to you in the first place. Not unless the people who built the pyramids weren't just forgotten, but replaced. And then there's the global pattern. Why do so many ancient cultures build pyramids? Egypt, China, Mesoamerica, Indonesia, even underwater in Japan. Civilizations that supposedly never made contact, all building massive triangular structures with precise astronomical alignments and mathematical proportion. Coincidence? Or were they all inheriting the same design? A blueprint passed down from an unknown origin? Or a shared influence across continents long before we admit humans even had the technology to travel that far? Maybe we're looking at a much older, forgotten chapter of human history, or maybe something even deeper. What if the pyramids weren't monuments at all? What if they were machines? So, what if the pyramids were not tombs, but machines? This theory isn't as crazy as it sounds. Let's talk about the Great Pyramid's internal structure. It's not built like a tomb. No decorations, no sarcophagus in the traditional sense, no writings, no ceremonial layout, just chambers, narrow shafts, air vents that point directly to specific stars like Orion's Belt and Sirius. Some scientists and fringe researchers believe the layout isn't symbolic. It's functional. In the 1990s, electrical engineer Christopher Dunn proposed something radical. He said the Great Pyramid wasn't a tomb at all. It was a power plant. According to Dunn, the pyramid was engineered to resonate with the Earth's natural vibrations. Think about that. The Earth hums at a very low frequency, the Schumann resonance, around 7.83 Hertz. What if the ancient builders found a way to tune into that frequency? Dunn claimed the Queen's Chamber held chemicals. The Grand Gallery acted as a resonator, and the King's Chamber, made of massive granite blocks, granite filled with quartz, vibrated with energy. Because quartz, when compressed, produces an electric charge. That's piezoelectricity.granite, quartz, vibration.energy. This isn't magic. It's science. Just a science we don't fully understand in this context. And here's the kicker. The Great Pyramid is built directly on top of a powerful underground water source. Flowing water beneath quartz, that generates electromagnetic energy. Now imagine that energy being channeled, focused, amplified by a 6 million ton structure shaped to perfection. And why? That's the mystery. Some believe it was wireless energy transmission, like Nikola Tesla's tower 1,000 years too early. Others think it was a kind of resonant amplifier, not for power, but for consciousness, a tool to connect with higher planes of existence, or perhaps to amplify brainwaves, meditation, astral travel, communication with the stars. And remember, the pyramid was once covered in polished white limestone casing stones, shiny, reflective. It would have gleamed in the sunlight. Some say it could even be seen from space. What kind of tomb needs to be seen from space? Now think again about the pyramid's perfect alignment with cardinal points, its proportions matching the golden ratio, its mathematical constants, pi, phi, the number of days in a solar year, all encoded into the structure. You're telling me this was just accidental, built by chance, by workers with no advanced math? At what point does coincidence become design? At what point does design become message? And at what point does that message stop being human? Because here's the dark question most historians won't touch. What if the pyramids weren't built for us? What if they were built by or for something else? So let's go back to that question again. What if the pyramids weren't built for humans at all? Because if they were energy machines or consciousness amplifiers, then who or what was supposed to use them? Here's where things get even stranger. Ancient texts from around the world, from Sumer, India, Mesoamerica, they all speak of sky gods, star people, beings who came down from the heavens. They brought knowledge, architecture, astronomy, language. They were not just myth, they were teachers. In ancient Egypt, those beings had a name, the 𝘠𝘪𝑚, immortal, godlike figures. But some researchers believe they weren't gods. They were visitors, builders. And the pyramids, they were the landing sites, or perhaps beacons, markers for something above, or below. Remember the shafts in the Great Pyramid that align with Orion? That's not symbolism. That's a coordinate, a cosmic GPS. And if that sounds insane, explain this. How is it that ancient cultures, completely unconnected, like the Maya in Mexico and the Egyptians in Africa, built pyramid structures that align with the stars, using the same mathematical principles, and even recorded similar myths about sky visitors? These people never met. They were divided by oceans, but they told the same story. Is that coincidence, or is that memory? A memory of something humanity has forgotten, or was forced to forget? And if these structures were left behind by an older, more advanced civilization, or even something non-human, then why? Why leave them here? As warnings, as tools, as anchors in a simulation? Now here's a truly uncomfortable thought. What if the pyramids aren't relics, but triggers? What if they're waiting to activate when the right frequency returns? And what if that frequency is tied to a cycle we don't understand? A reset, a realignment, a return. And if that's true, then we're not at the end of history, we're at the beginning of a loop. And maybe the countdown has already started. So here we are, thousands of years after they were built, and we still have no idea why the pyramids exist. The official story says they're tombs, but no pharaoh was ever found inside the Great Pyramid. No hieroglyphs, no sarcophagus, no decorations, nothing. Just cold stone and silence. It's almost as if the pyramid was never meant for the dead, but for something still alive. Maybe it's not about what the pyramids were, maybe it's about what they are. And maybe that's why we're not allowed to get too close. Why the truth is buried under stories. Why scientists laugh when you ask the real questions. Because the truth might be, the pyramids are not monuments of the past, they're warnings for the future. And we're standing right in their shadow. So let me ask you this. What if the pyramids were never meant to be found? The pyramids are just the beginning. Want to know more? There's more truth on my channel. Subscribe.